Jeff's Superscript is brought to you by Black Cat Comics and Collectibles, in my opinion, the best comic shop and clubhouse on the internet. Follow them at Black Cat Burbank on Instagram and join their claim sales on Tuesdays for new books and Fridays for back issues. And don't forget to ask about joining their Stray Cats Club for special perks.
Hi, I'm Jeff, and welcome to another one of my videos where I take a look at all the new comic books hitting Final Order Cutoff this upcoming weekend, April 4th and 5th, 2021. Now there's a lot of books I want to talk about today, but I'm not going to start talking about them until I've asked you to go ahead and hit that like button if you wouldn't mind. I would really appreciate it. Okay, let's jump right into it. First, with crossover number 6 from Image Comics. The description says, you know what, I'm not going to read the description because it has a minor spoiler in there. All I'm going to say is that Donny Cates told us to keep an eye out for issues number 3 and issues number 6. So I've got my eye on this issue, number 6. It is the end of this first story arc, so it's very possible it's going to have some pretty cool and exciting things in it. I want you to be aware that it's hitting FOC this weekend. The next book I want to mention to you is a personal favorite of mine. It is The Department of Truth, number 8. This is a return. You know, issue numbers 6 and 7 were kind of backstories, stories of like the history of the Department of Truth in the world kind of deal. Now we're back into our main storyline here with issue number 8. If you haven't been reading Department of Truth, this is absolutely your last best opportunity to jump on board with this issue. Something that's also exciting about this issue is that there is a B cover by Bill Sienkiewicz and a C cover by Scotty Young. What is a Scotty Young Department of Truth cover going to look like? I don't know, because they don't have an image for it yet, but you know what? I am interested to find out. So that's absolutely something that I immediately contacted my LCS about and said, make sure you get me at least one of those. I may even get more than one. I wanted you to be aware of it as well. The next book I want to mention to you is a book called Helm Grayscale, number 1. It's a 4-part from Image Comics. The description reads, New Latinx Fantasy by Henry Barajas, author of the critically acclaimed La Voz de Mayo, Tata Rambo. The last Dragon Prince has been abducted, kept prisoner by an unknown threat, Aztec Mexica. Helm Grayscale is his outsider comrades are here to save the prince, but are recruited by a resistance plotting to overthrow Montezuma. Will Grayscale help save the people of Mexico or rescue the Dragon Prince and flee? This book doesn't actually sound that particularly interesting to me, but you know what? If I was Latinx and I was looking for a Latinx comic book to read, this might be interesting to me. So it might be interesting to you for that reason or for any other reason. I wanted to make sure it was on your radar this week. The next book I want to mention to you is Shadecraft number 2. I mentioned this was my pick recently, was Shadecraft number 1. I haven't had a chance to read Shadecraft number 1 yet, but even though I haven't read it, I still have a very good feeling about it. I wanted to mention that number 2 is hitting FOC this weekend. A book like this that I'm particularly interested in, I like to at least give 2 issues of a chance. So I wanted to make sure that you knew that if you read issue number 1 and you liked it, make sure that you reserve your issue number 2, because FOC is hitting this weekend. The next book I want to mention to you is Summoner's War Legacy number 1 from Image Comics. It says Skybound dives into the wondrous world of Summoner's War, the popular mobile game where magical monsters are summoned in a never-ending battle of good versus evil. Ryan knows there's only one way out of her nothing town to become a summoner. But when she's recruited by Abbess Dean as an apprentice, she embarks on the adventure of a lifetime and is thrust into a war for the fate of the world. I think this is a book that is for people, first and foremost, who might be a fan of this video game, Summoner's War. But maybe you're into this kind of fantasy storytelling, and it might be interesting to you for that reason as well. The next one I want to mention is similar. It is called Critical Role, The Tales of Exandria, the Bright Queen. The description reads, Leylas Kryn, the Bright Queen of the Kryn dynasty, has spent multiple lives in pursuit of assembling the Luxon. With her eternal lover, Quana, at her side, she will stop at nothing to use its otherworldly power to bring a golden age to the peoples under her rule. So when what might be the final piece of the Luxon appears nearby, Leylas sends Quanana to collect it, with consequences that may threaten the entire dynasty. Critical Role Game Master Matthew Mercer joins Eisner Award-winning writer Darcy Van Polgeest from Little Bird. I don't know anything about this. This Critical Role seems to be kind of like a world that's built here in Dark Horse Comics. I don't know, is this a role-play game as well? Maybe you let me know down in the comments if you know more about this than I do. But it said Critical Role Game Master Matthew Mercer. Game Master, I think, role-play game. I don't know if this is just based off of a role-play game or actually like based off of role-play games or based off an actual role-play game. Like I said, let me know if you know more about this down in the comments. But if you like role-play games, or if you know this series, you might be interested in knowing that it's hitting FOC this weekend. Speaking of which, there's a lot of similar things with games here. Next, we have Cyberpunk 2077, You Have My Word, #1. This is a 4-part series. The description reads, a new urban development proposal is being pushed through City Council, a flagrant infraction on those safeguarded by the Valentinos gang. They enlist the service of 3 cyberpunks to discreetly and strategically terminate the project, but their subject is more than an ordinary target. Well, there was already the Cyberpunk 2077 book that basically I didn't hear much about. I think that these comic books have been hurt a little bit by the fact that the video game, I think, was problematic. I never had a chance to play it, but I was really excited about it. I think a lot of other people were really excited about it as well, but I think it turned out to have some problems that kind of turned people off. It may be turning people off to the property in general. If you haven't been turned off to it and you're still all in on Cyberpunk 2077, you might be interested in checking out this new title hitting FOC this upcoming weekend. The next book I want to mention to you is Black Panther #25 from Marvel Comics. Here's the description. The final issue of Ta-Nehisi Coates' landmark run. It's the end of an era for the Black Panther as renowned writer Ta-Nehisi Coates concludes his Wakandian epic. Over 4 years, Coates has taken the Black Panther to hell and back and expanded Wakanda into the distant stars. Now, in his final issue, he brings T'Challa full circle back to the home he left behind and the crown he has never fully accepted. This is the story of a king who sought to be a hero who was reduced to a slave who advanced into legend, and the man who has struggled to hold up an entire empire in his bare hands. The journey will conclude, but the legend remains. Don't miss this close of a historic epoch in comic history. Woo! That was more difficult to read than I had anticipated. But the point is that this is the end of this writer's journey on this book. I don't know if it's going to continue as a title, but the fact that this writer is ending their journey on this book with this issue is worth paying attention to in and of itself. I think sometimes these final issues of sorts, they like to kind of drop in little things to be excited about. So this might be one to keep on your radar. In addition, there's a boatload of covers for this book. So if one of these covers that you're seeing over here interests you, you want to reserve it FOC, before FOC, because there's just so many of them. You want to make sure to tell your local comic shop, I want this cover, and I want to guarantee my copy of it. So this is one where, like I said before, if you see a cover here that you like a lot, make sure you reserve it ahead of Final Order Cutoff. The next one's another anniversary issue. It is Miles Morales' SpiderMan #25. The description says, the Clone Saga, Miles Morales style. We finally see the full extent of what the Assessor did when he kidnapped Miles back in #7. This oversized anniversary issue lets the clones loose in Brooklyn and messes with Miles' life even more than Peter Parker's Clone Saga messed his life up. This could be pretty cool. This could be pretty interesting. Miles Morales is hot. Miles Morales is cool. This is an anniversary issue. It's oversized. They're kind of giving you this Clone Saga. It looks like he's battling, Miles Morales Spider-Man clones that kind of are like shapeshifters or like different kind of abilities and stuff like that. Looks like it could be pretty cool. If you've been looking for an excuse to jump on Miles Morales, I would maybe do it here. I have not been looking for an excuse to jump on Miles Morales. I mean, maybe kind of a little bit. But if I was going to jump on Miles Morales, I would definitely check this one out right here. The next book I want to mention to you is Spider-Man Curse of the Man-Thing #1. Here's the description. Discover the horror Man-Thing hides within if you dare. Man-Thing's supernatural abilities have been pirated thanks to the Harrower, a zealot intent on clearing humanity off the board so a new species can get a shot at the top. The world burns, and fear is the accelerant. Meanwhile, Spider-Man races across New York, desperate to avert disaster and find the one man that just might be able to get through to Man-Thing, his former colleague, Kurt Connors, a.k.a. the Lizard. But deep within the Man-Thing's psyche, it's Spider-Man that discovers something he never expected, a devilish secret, and a doctor seeking redemption. Part 2 of 3. I guess that this is... Okay, so part 2 of 3, it's issue #1, but it's part 2 of 3. I guess that the Avengers one that I mentioned in my... that just came out this past week... what was that book? It was Avengers Curse of the Man-Thing, which was the first appearance of the Harrower that came out this week. Maybe this is the second part of that. It's interesting that they're doing this Man-Thing storyline. Maybe the Harrower is a more important character than I first gave credit to. Only time will tell. Might be something that you consider. Maybe if you haven't picked up this week's book, you pick up the first appearance of the Harrower. But there seem to be into this Man-Thing storyline, which, kind of perks my ears up a little bit. Something you might want to keep in mind before FOC. The next book I want to mention to you is Radio Apocalypse #1 from Vault Comics. Here's the description. Long after the rock out of space struck the world and turned it all to dust, in Bakerstown stands the last radio station on the planet. Radio Apocalypse, broadcasting into the unknown, a beacon in the dark for those who wander the lost places. Now, change is coming to Bakerstown. Among the refugees flocking to an already precarious settlement, an orphan boy, Rion, caught in an indiscretion, will twine his fate with the radio station, and in doing so, begin this mixtape of love and heartbreak and interminable hope, the soundtrack to the end of the world. Okay, I like music. I tend to wear a lot of music t-shirts and stuff like that. So this is kind of interesting to me as like a comic book music potential crossover, it feels like. But what's most interesting to me is the writer for this, Ram V. Ram V is writing this, and Ram V is the name who I just keep seeing pop up over and over and over again. And whenever I see that kind of habitual pattern of the same name coming up over and over and over again, it makes me want to take special attention. So it gives this book a little bit of special emphasis for me. If it's interesting to you, you might want to go ahead and reserve it. The next book I want to mention to you is similar to the last one, is ShadowMan #1. From best-selling master of horror Cullen Bunn and bone-chilling artist John Davis Hunt comes a shocking supernatural odyssey. Jack Boniface is Shadowman, a powerful protector who keeps humanity safe from the demons that claw at the fabric of our reality. The forces of darkness are awakening and they are hungry for life. Will Shadowman be able to save us all, or will the darkness devour the world as we know it? Similar to the previous book, this book has a writer whose name I see over and over and over again. In fact, probably too much. Cullen Bunn. I feel like every month I'm seeing a new title from this guy. There's just, either he's extremely prolific or just spread way too thin. I'm not quite sure. I haven't read a ton of his stuff, so I can't speak to my fandom of his writing directly, but once again, I see his name all the time, so it's worth standing up and taking notice. This is a new title, a new character, might be something worth specking on, and if you're a fan of Cullen Bunn already, might be worth checking out as a read. The next book I want to mention to you, we're going to get into DC now, the DC books. Something I want to mention about the DC books this week. Lunar Distribution, the website, said that the FOC for the DC books is what it always is, Sunday, but the 4th of April. But Sunday the 4th of April is Easter, and traditionally, DC and Lunar's FOC, when there is a holiday around FOC, gets pushed way up, sometimes like to Saturday, sometimes to Friday. So what I'm going to say is that even though Lunar says that the 4th, Easter Day, is FOC for these next DC books that I mentioned, if any of these interest you, I recommend that you contact your LCS immediately and don't wait, so that they can make sure that they get ahead of whatever pushed up FOC date has been set by Lunar and DC. All right, enough about that. Let's get into the DC books. The first one I want to mention is probably my pick of the week for FOC if I had one, and that book is Batman 108. The description reads, Batman goes undercover to infiltrate the transhumanist gang known as the Unsanity Collective and learn more about their sudden appearance in Gotham. And what nefarious plans does Simon Saint have for Arkham Day survivor Sean Mahoney? How does it connect to the Magistrate? And in part 2 of the action-packed, bone-rattling Ghost Maker backup story, can our hero stand up to the horror of Kid Kawaii? Plus, don't miss the debut of the mysterious Miracle Molly. She's all over the covers of these books. They are calling this the first full appearance of Miracle Molly. Although, I have to admit, she was in 3 panels in issue number 106. One in shadow, one was her jaw, the rest was a tight close-up of her face. She wasn't referenced by name. They're calling that a cameo. I mean, the debate about cameo versus first full appearance, I'm sure will rage on when it comes to this character. But it seems like the official stance is that issue number 108 will be her first full appearance. And she's on the cover, so it'll likely be the collectible for anybody who's interested in collecting Miracle Molly. It doesn't seem like Miracle Molly is going to be a flash-in-the-pan character, so this might be a book that you make sure to reserve ahead of FOC. In fact, I think I am going to tell my LCS to reserve me 3 copies of this. I don't often double up on the same covers. I sometimes get multiple covers, but I don't often double up on the same cover. This is one, I mean, it's probably not going to be hot as Punchline. Punchline kind of snuck up on people a little bit. People are expecting Miracle Molly a little bit more. There's been a lot of more foreknowledge of Miracle Molly's arrival in the DC universe. But even still, I think I'm going to go ahead and pick up multiple copies of this. You might want to go ahead and let your LCS know that you are interested in doing the same. The next book I want to mention to you is Robin number 1. Here's the description. After learning of the Deadly League of Lazarus tournament, Damian Wayne has a new mission, winning the tournament and prove he is the greatest fighter in the DC universe. But first, he must find the secret island where it's all going down. This brand new solo Robin series will force Damian Wayne to find his own path away from both sides of his family. New mysteries, new supporting cast, first appearances of new characters, and lots of fights. All right, well, I don't know much about Damian Wayne, to be quite honest. But the little bit that I have seen about him, he seems like a pretty interesting character. He's walking the line between his hero side and maybe his less than heroic side. He seems pretty compelling and interesting as a character. You put him in a fighting tournament, it could be a pretty exciting read, and then you would tease me with first appearances of new characters. Well, now you're pushing my spec button as well. So this might be a book that is worth checking out. If you're a big Batman universe fan, or you're a big Robin fan, or you're a big Damian Wayne fan, or you're a fan of just action, you might want to check this out. It's also written by Joshua Williamson. So this book has a lot of things going for it. Man, dude, I wasn't gonna pick this one up, but now as I'm talking about it more and more while making this video right now, the more and more I'm thinking, man, just pick up issue number 1. Just pick it up. Just pick it up. And put it in your collection and hedge your bets. I don't know, I'm torn, but I'm thinking about it. Maybe you're thinking about it as well, but don't think about it too long, because once again, this FOC might be coming up sooner than you think. The next book that I want to mention to you is Ruby Justice League #1. It's a 7-part limited series. It says the DC Universe and the world of Ruby collide in this new mini-series. Discover the Bruce Wayne, Clark Kent, and Diana Prince of Remnant as Team Ruby comes face-to-face with new versions of DC's Paragons of Justice. A new Grim is running rampant around the island of Patch, and Ruby and Yang must team up with a young farm boy to stop it. Meanwhile, Blake meets a mysterious woman who's appeared on Menagerie. But what is her purpose? And why does she act like she hasn't been around modern society? Okay, I don't know anything about Ruby. I've seen those letters in this order before on a book, but I don't know anything about it. I'm guessing it's kind of an alternate universe, and there's alternate universe Ruby Justice League characters. If you're a fan of Ruby, I'm sure that this is going to be very cool and very exciting and very interesting to you. And also, maybe if you're a big Justice League fan, it might be interesting to you in that regard as well. And who knows, maybe if there's ever like a multiverse, in DC, that these characters maybe will come out and have more importance down the line. I don't know. I'm reaching a little bit with that one, but I'm just trying to come up with reasons that you might be interested in this book. Regardless of your interest or lack of interest, I wanted to make sure that you knew it was hitting FOC this week. The last book I'm going to mention to you today is Teen Titans Academy #2. Here's the description real fast. The questions mount around the new school formed by the original new Teen Titans. What's going on with Billy Batson's access to the powers of Shazam? What dark secret is Raven's new pupil Dane hiding? And who's masquerading as the new Red X? Well, that last one, I read issue #1 actually just last night, and I'll be talking more about this in my upcoming Just One Book video, but it's a lot of what's happening in Teen Titan Academy seems to be based off of Who's Red X, and I don't know what the rest of the book is going to be about. Issue #1 did not give a lot of, by way of like answers or information or context about what the book is going to be about, other than figuring out right now who is potentially going to become Red X. So, but I mentioned issue #2 because the question continues. The reveal of who Red X is could pop up at any time. Are they going to string that along for a long time, or are they going to put it out in issue #2? It's too hard to tell right now, but I wanted to make sure that you knew that issue #2 was hitting FOC, just in case you only reserved issue #1, but you're still interested in seeing what potential Teen Titans Academy has. All right, so that's all the books I wanted to mention for today. It's a lot of them, I know, but as I was going through them, every one I was like, oh, this one I gotta mention, this one I gotta mention. There's a lot of cool ones on this list here this week. If you appreciate the fact that I took the time to go over this list for you, likes are something that are appreciated by me. In addition, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, feel free to hit the subscribe guy right there, and make sure you hit the notification bell so you're informed when I put out new videos. I just put out a new Test Your Comic Book Grading Skills video you might want to check out. Thank you all, as always, for checking out this video. I'll see you in the next one.